When it comes to big screen, multi-film, epic storytelling, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the tops. There's no film series that's been this good for this many installments. It's a mystical process, but these movies aren't conjured up magically overnight, like the way Doctor Strange does business. They're established through a set of hard rules that everyone in the MCU team needs to follow. From Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, to the directors, to the writers, to the crew members, to the superhero stars. And it's the actors who just might have the hardest jobs of all. Here are 10 rules they have to follow when joining the MCU.
I'm gonna have PTSD from this junket. I mean, honestly.
Really?
For actors in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this process is a bit more intense than normal. According to Ebony Maw actor Tom Vaughan-Lawler, he needed to submit background investigations so the studios would know that he wasn't a psychopath, secret criminal mastermind, and that there were no blemishes on his personal record. With billions of dollars at stake, Marvel doesn't want any of its stars involved in scandals, past, present, and future. So every talent contract stipulates that actors maintain a certain level of dignity on set and off. Since they sign to multiple films at a time, Marvel wants to make sure that these actors put in the outside work and research, study their lines, hit their marks, and stay upbeat in their working relationship. Plus, with fans of all ages, the actors are expected to be tireless role models. Robert Downey Jr. has been the face of the MCU since 2008's Iron Man. While the actor has had a troubled past, he was always respected for his talent and friendly demeanor. Marvel took a risk in casting him, but his personality was a perfect match for Tony Stark's, and the fact that he overcame his past transgressions and addictions is an awesome success story for fans to emulate. RDJ, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Edward Norton, then Mark Ruffalo all had the perfect spark to appeal to mass audiences. But at first, they may have not been aware of how much they were expected to be spokespeople for the Marvel brand. With their contracts, the actors are basically required to attend every press tour and public appearance. And with wide international releases for every film, the actors are shuttled all over the world to pitch their films to various countries, sit through marathon press conferences, participate in roundtable interviews, and be ready with the flashiest quip on the talk show circuit. That said, Marvel casts its movies right. It seems like the stars, for the most part, really do get along. Much like the members of the Fellowship in the Lord of the Rings cast, the main Avengers all got matching tattoos. But sometimes they can have too much fun. Rumor has it that MCU's top brass has tried to limit the amount of times actors like Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans promote together because they might party just a bit too much. With the MCU, the rule of thumb is to be ready for anything. Whether that means being ready for a tough shooting schedule, a long promotional tour, or a series of demanding reshoots. Reshoots are a necessary part of any big-budget film production, and some films need extensive reshoots to ensure the storyline remains consistent from scene to scene. Also, new ideas from the writers can help streamline an Act 3 reveal or better connect to a film spin-off. The difference with Marvel is that their extensive contracts require their reshoots take precedence over any other commitments the actors may have after the MCU's principal photography wraps. Even after he completed filming Thor: Dark World, Idris Elba needed to leave the set of Mandela: Long Walk to Freedom to finish up Marvel reshoots. Elba considered it torture, especially since the Mandela film was probably a more dynamic use of his talents. But his agreements with Marvel dictated that he needed to leave Mandela and return to Asgard. Kevin Feige considers reshoots invaluable and cites Thor: Dark World's 3-continent shot, in which actors were filmed on 3 different continents, ended up in the same shot as a success story of reshoots. The process of making a Marvel movie takes a heavy toll on the body, and the rigid schedule requires actors to be fully prepared at every moment. That said, the possibility of on-set mishaps, surprise injuries, and production problems mean that actors need to respond reflexively to any curveball thrown their way. So, naturally, they need to be super healthy. In-house nutritionists work with A-list celebrity trainers to make sure that actors' caloric intake coincides with the burns and and gains made in the gym. Sure, stars like Chris Hemsworth are naturally well-built and can add muscle with the same ease some of us can add HP to our playable video game characters, but even Hemsworth needs to eat several carefully curated meals every 3 hours. But for every actor, it's different. Chris Evans overworked his body, doing plyometrics and agility training to the point of sickness. Tom Holland supplemented his gymnastics training with electronic muscle stimulation. Despite the pain, the gains are monumental, giving these actors a muscle tone that would make their comic book counterparts jealous. Another consistent feature from movie to movie is the tight-lipped atmosphere hovering over sets. Any loose lips could impact their careers faster than you can say Excelsior. With restricted scripts, the background checks, and high-level security, Marvel Studios seems to have as much control over their employees as a country's government has over its own secrets. To make sure that the actors maintain the integrity of their characters, the stars of the MCU are required to do deep-dive research into their characters' comic book storylines. When Chadwick Boseman was awarded the role of Black Panther, he not only devoured all of the available info in the archives of Marvel Comics, he also visited South Africa to get a firm handle on the socioeconomic situation that inspired the character. That said, the actors don't always know what's going on in the scenes at hand. For security reasons, they're not allowed to take scripts home, and various members of the production team also may be given fake scripts at any given time. To maintain the effect of a given surprise, some actors may shoot a scene without knowing exactly what's happening in it. Yes, the Marvel stars do a crazy amount of training to look good in their suits, but they also need to be in peak physical condition so they can perform their own stunts. In order to make the finished products look as realistic as possible, Marvel actors are often expected to train in martial arts, gymnastics, and tumbling to land the moves that more seasoned stunt people will perform in their entirety. For instance, when Robert Downey Jr. was prepping for his role as Iron Man, he undertook Wing Chun training. Wing Chun is the form of martial arts that was popularized by Bruce Lee, and its brand of mindfulness helped RDJ overcome any mental temptations that may have lingered from his earlier days of addiction. When it comes to stunts, according to Tom Holland, I did as many as I could, but there are some things legally I can't do. Since the actors are the faces of the franchise, Marvel will still ensure that these faces don't get damaged. So Marvel relies on the pros, like the sibling stunt team Sam and Daniel Hargrave for Captain America, sisters Heidi and Renee Moneymaker for Black Widow and Captain Marvel, and Bobby Holland-Handon for Thor. Once you sign on to a Marvel movie, your face basically belongs to the comic book company, and your likeness is now theirs to exploit. In order to make the big MCU bucks, you need to be willing to have your image printed on comic books, magazines, and action figures. In these situations, merchandisers have been known to run amok. That said, Marvel is still savvy in the way that they tell their stories. Their decades worth of experience making comic book movies means that they avoid oversaturating the market. They're not going to make the beginner decisions that, say, George Lucas made on the first Star Wars and go filling up store shelves with countless toys, storybooks, and cleaning supplies. Basically, the Marvel actors aren't going to experience as much of a shock as Carrie Fisher recounts in her book, Wishful Drinking. There was a soap that read, "Lather up with Leia and you'll feel like a princess yourself. And the nice people at Burger King made me into a watch." While they own your image, the facts that you're constantly filming means they generally tell you how to look and recommend how to dress, whether it means hours in the makeup chair or going bald for a part. Marvel's high expectations extend to the actors who don't appear on camera as well. Vin Diesel is a world-famous star, and his success in the Fast and Furious franchise proves that he's got a memorable presence on camera. So it was pretty shocking to hear that his acting talents would be limited to voice work only in the MCU. That said, his turn as Groot in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, as well as Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, did not disappoint. All despite the fact that he only says the same 3 words,
"I am Groot.
The creative team at Marvel still provided the actor with a variety of options and adjustments to try during his recording sessions. While principal photography for Guardians of the Galaxy took the better part of several months, Diesel was likely only needed on the mic for a short time. But for these recording sessions, Diesel was given a printed out script featuring each separate instance where the line "I am Groot" appeared on the film, as well as notes on the context of each line. He was also given a take on what Groot was thinking as he was experiencing the events of the given scene. Sure, the MCU has a bunch of rules to keep their actors in check, but they still give the actors and their collaborators a lot of freedom in bringing as much of themselves into the roles they portray. They cannot, however, break one of the strictest rules of all: no MCU actors can appear in DC films. This makes sense, as the DC Expanded Universe has arguably had a harder time consistently making higher quality films. With the success of Wonder Woman and Joker, perhaps DC will seem more attractive to actors who, as of now, aren't allowed to jump ship and join forces with the enemy studio. This was confirmed at the 2017 Supernova Comic-Con in Australia, where Chris Hemsworth reveals that any appearance by himself or a co-star in a DC film would be an illegal breach of his contract. That said, Marvel and DC-based movies made before the MCU and DCEU set up camp have included actors from opposing camps. Ryan Reynolds played the Green Lantern before appearing in 20th Century Fox's Deadpool, Ben Affleck played Daredevil before moving on to Batman, and James Marsden appeared as Richard White in Superman Returns and Cyclops in the X-Men movies. At the end, actors need to be ready for anything to happen. For example, in Guardians of the Galaxy, Dave Bautista and Chris Pratt rehearsed the choreography of a fight scene for 2 months. Then, director James Gunn changed the scene at the last minute, requiring the actors to learn moves in a day. And while morale seems to be pretty high in the house that Stan Lee built, unforeseen production woes can impact actor satisfaction. When director Patty Jenkins was fired from the Thor sequel last minute, Natalie Portman became fairly vocal about her frustration. The full Guardians of the Galaxy cast also experienced a similar issue with the firing of writer-director James Gunn, and they released some irate messages to the press as a result. Gunn was eventually rehired, but not before some studio dirty laundry was aired to the public. This demanding atmosphere takes its toll. For Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield, his performance style may have not been the only reason he was replaced by Tom Holland when his character moved to the MCU. Apparently, after canceling a public appearance last minute, it didn't sit well with the studio, and may have played a part in him getting replaced. With all these studio requirements and corporate mandates forced upon the stars, do you think you have what it takes to be an actor in the MCU? As you can see, the Marvel Cinematic Universe changes the lives of its stars. But for all of its rules and regulations, it's also made these actors more wealthy and successful than they could have possibly imagined. Comment below and stay tuned for more videos like this one. See you around.